you for that very warm welcome introduction, Ben. I appreciate you. My name is Bridget Potterton, and I'm a real estate broker with Keller Williams San Diego Metro. Um, I can't believe it, but this week I have been in real estate for 22 years. And obviously, I started when I was four, right?
Right.
And I've been with Keller Williams. I think this is my 16th year with Keller Williams. I've lost track, but I've seen a few things, been through a couple things, a couple of challenges in the real estate industry and a few changes. And I'm just so excited to be here today. And I'm so glad, Ben, that we got to spend time together because I feel like you and I, yes, we've met in Gary Keller's mastermind group a couple times, just kind of like in quick passing. So I'm so glad that you got to spend some time with me. And honestly, I did it for selfish reasons. Those late night parties, I love them, but I can't talk to anybody at those events. And it's kind of funny, but I feel like realtors now all of a sudden we have to be party planners for real estate events. That just became a thing. And so I thought, you know what? I'm gonna kind of be a rebel. I'm not gonna do like a fancy bar thing or a fancy club thing because I know a lot of realtors they don't drink or they don't want to do that stuff. So I got a suite and I just hosted little events. And if you want to have a cocktail, great. If you want to have an iced tea, great. No pressure, but let's actually talk instead of screaming over the music. So that's kind of where all that came from, and it's worked out really well.
Well, it was genius. And I was on a call yesterday, and our friends now in Atlanta are already planning next family reunion. And so there's a number of agents that I've already talked with that have reached out to me that are planning something very similar. And I
Mm.
love the fact that it wasn't at 8 or 9 o'clock, because yes, we seem to be go, go, go. And that's not a problem for me. You're looking at someone who is functioning from about 2.5 hours of sleep last night, but that's pretty common for me. Um, it is what it is. But when you're in that city and it's go, 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 and then we have to be downstairs at, by 8 o'clock, it's a bit much. It's a bit much. So thank you for hosting that, because
Yeah.
I met some great agents. And matter of fact, I talked to Dawn, I think Thompson, from Atlanta. I talked to her yesterday, and she and I really connected at your event. So, not to belabor that, but kudos to you again.
Thank
And I
you.
know, um, let's just start briefly. I know you're in the San Diego market, so touch briefly. What do you see happening there in San Diego?
It's kind of interesting. Normally, I would say December, January are kind of my slow time. I know that's the case for a lot of people around the country. And what was interesting was the week between Christmas and New Year's. Normally I take, honestly, I know we're not supposed to, but I usually take the last couple weeks of the year off. I'm just going to be honest, okay? And I remember was it Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve? I negotiated two of my listings that had been sitting on the market and got them under contract. And I'm like, what? What is going on? This is odd. Like, shouldn't people be getting ready for their parties? Um, so that was kind of rare for me. And then I've also, well, another thing I've noticed is a fair amount of properties falling out of escrow, more so than I recall before. And for different reasons, not just financing. Some of them are, condition of the property or random things, but I've noticed that too. So it does feel like in general, we're still in a seller's market. We still have our days on market average is about 39 right now. Mine is a small fraction of that, but in general, properties are sitting on the market a little bit longer. I think kind of like what we've been talking about in our mastermind spend, but I think pricing is more important than ever in our markets where we have a little bit more inventory. I also do a weekly video every week on social media about what's going on in San Diego. And so I keep a pretty good pulse. And it seems like we're already starting to get our spring market. I know it's just now March, but the last 3 weeks we've started to see an increase in our inventory about between 2 and 3.5% per week. I anticipate probably by mid this month it'll be a little bit more than that, but that's kind of what we're seeing in San Diego right now. Prices are still going up a little bit, not a lot, but still a little bit.
The same is true here. Yeah, I mean, last year was challenging from so many different aspects. But the interesting thing is, from a volume standpoint, 2024 was the third best year we've ever had in real estate here. But then you can look at some other metrics and go, well, we have to go all the way back to 1995 before we see another market that was similar. But again, I think I keep telling myself that for 2025, this is all about you. There's nothing political about it. I'm manifesting that this is going to be a great year, and I believe that. I'm seeing early signs as I talk to some of the folks on this call and referral partners, again, in San Antonio, in Arizona, in other places. I think they're also very optimistic about it. So let's go. Let's go. I didn't intend to do this, but after yesterday being such a whirlwind, is what I'm going to say. Let's address the elephant in the room very briefly. And I'm talking about the whole announcement here at KW. What was your reaction to it? And what are you thinking?
Um, Gary is very strategic.
Yes.
He doesn't do anything just randomly. And my guess is that this has probably been in the works for some time.
Yes.
I think that in general, I don't see it affecting us in our day-to-day operations that much. So I'm not overly concerned about what it means for your business, for my business. I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of changes there will be to KWRI. Um, I think there's a lot of things that are a little bit confusing whether or not we were, I know we were a portion of Gary's ownership was purchased. I think there may be some confusion as to exactly whether it was a private equity firm that is purchasing it and how the new CEO role is going to work with that. I think there's maybe some questions there, but all in all, I don't think it's going to affect our day-to-day business. I think we all need to just kind of keep our heads down and don't be distracted by the noise because that's really what it is. It's just noise for us as realtors in our business.
100% noise. And I said the politics stuff was noise. Don't let it distract you. I think yesterday was exactly the same. I had a hard time not chiming in on some of the stuff on Facebook because I just don't. But I mean, I had to hold back because I just
I
wanted to give
know.
my 2 cents and say,
Mhm.
yeah, at the end of the day, it's noise, and we just need to keep our head down, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's
Yeah,
go.
don't get
Let's
distracted by the keyboard. What do they call them? The keyboard pushers or
yeah,
keyboard Nazis? What's the saying everybody calls them? I forget.
yeah. I
Keyboard
don't even.
warriors.
Keyboard warriors. Okay, yeah.
No,
Don't engage. Nothing good can
no,
happen from
no,
engaging by doing this. I
no,
have
not at all.
learned the hard way.
Nope, no. And you're and I feel like you might have said that you've been pigeonholed a little bit. And so we're going to talk just briefly about Bridget and all the accolades, and you're on stages and you're teaching classes. What is all that about, and how did it come about? You divorce specialist, you.
Yeah, the face of KW divorce, right?
Oh
Just
my
what every
goodness.
gal dreams of. So it kind of happened. Actually, it was at one of our masterminds. I had been working with divorce attorneys for um, at that point probably 12 or 13 years. So I was like this secret specialist. I had gotten a designation many years ago. I started working with just a handful of mediators and attorneys, and they started sending me their business. But I was struggling. I couldn't figure out how to build that, and so knew I needed more in that space. And so I went out and I became a certified divorce real estate expert, or CDRE. It's a program done. It's broker agnostic, but I did that in 2020. And then in one of our masterminds with Gary and Jay and Jason, it was a Zoom, and they start talking about, all right, guys, you need to focus on listings. Here's the now business, right? So this was probably in 2021 or 2022 when listings were really hard to get. And they were like, you need to go for the need to lists. Who are the need to lists? It's probate. It's, somebody having a baby, or relocation, divorce. And so Jason was kind of talking a little bit about divorce, and I almost typed in, "Oh, I'm a certified divorce real estate expert," but then I thought, no, I probably shouldn't type that in. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so because we're on Zoom, I pressed send. And then Jason says, "Hey, I don't know what a CDRE is, or a certified divorce real estate expert, but I'd love to talk to you about it." So what was supposed to be a casual conversation between Jason Abrams and I turned out something that he videotaped, which he did tell me in advance it's going to be in video. And then they ended up playing a snippet of it at Mega Camp, which I just thought this was like a conversation. I would have brushed my hair and done more makeup, but it is what it is. And then fast forward, they put me on a panel at Family Reunion, and then a year later, Jason interviews me for last year for the MREA podcast. And then I guess I didn't know this, but they put me in their little well, I'm in the playbook too, the MRA playbook, but then they also put me on something at Family Reunion this year where it was like the top 10 lead gen hacks.
Yeah.
And then,
Sure.
another panel. And
Yeah.
then I got to do a red talk for 15 minutes this year at Family Reunion, all because I typed in, being a little, what did you guys call it? Keyboard warrior.
Yes.
I'm a certified divorce real estate expert. And then it just kind of, and honestly, I had been doing it for a while where I kind of forgot what I was doing was really a different type of lead generation, because it's really just lead generation. It's just my focus is not going after the public like most realtors, going after any, sphere, past clients, any of that stuff. Mine is not going after the public. Mine is going after attorneys. That's where my focus is. And I never wanted it to be a majority of my business. Honestly, I didn't even like working with people who hated each other, but it just seemed like a secure
Yeah.
space to work in. And my goal was to get it to 25% of my business. And last year it was well over 50% of my GCI came from attorneys. And my mindset shifted a while ago where I realized it's not about me enjoying working with people who hate each other.
Yes.
It's about helping the most vulnerable sellers out there right now be treated better than we have, as an industry, have treated them, because I think we as an industry have treated them like distress sales, and they're not. And
Right.
I think we as an industry have honestly failed them. And so I feel very passionate about it, because when you're going through a divorce, fortunately, knock on wood, I've never been through one, but seeing so many of them, when you are going through a divorce, every dollar from that house counts. And we as an industry have no right to disclose that they're divorce that it's a divorce listing, because what do people think of when they think of
Yeah.
divorce? Distress, opportunity, right?
Right.
So I've obviously I feel passionate about it now, but when I first started working with them, I'm like, oh my God, these people are terrible. How do I even handle this, right?
Yes. Well, I love the fact that I mean, I know that you're the calm amongst the storm in that situation. And I've only been in that situation a few times, where again, both were okay with me. I've lost tons of listings like many. I've had a relationship with him, not her, or her, not him. And they're like, we'll do anything, but we're not using your agent because that's your agent and this is my agent. How do you deal with that? Or in your situation, you don't have to deal with it. And are you ever appointed by the courts?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that I get the listings. A couple of you asked about commissioner. So different states have different names. All the state courts are all very different. Um, I think in Florida, no, in Georgia and um, I know Arizona, they have this thing called special commissioner, where you get assigned through the court. In California, we call it a court appointed realtor. Um, Most of mine actually come from the divorce attorneys directly. I do have some, like I have one judge pro tem in particular, which is a judge pro tem. I think that's a California term. You may not have that in your state, but it's essentially like a temporary judge. So it's an attorney who has special training to almost be like an arbitration. In our real estate world, arbitration, we've got the mediation, we've got the arbitration. It's kind of like that. And I have this one judge pro tem who I don't know what I did to deserve it, but she literally has these attorneys trained when they come in and the parties. And she literally says, if you don't appoint Bridget Potterton as your realtor, you're all idiots. She says that. And I know that because I've had several parties say, my judge pro tem told me I have to use you as my realtor. So it's funny because it is a different thing because by the time I get it, like for example, I've got a listing appointment on Wednesday. I've already been appointed to sell the house. They don't even know what I charge for commission. That's kind of an interesting space to be in. So my listing appointments don't look probably like your listing appointments. Now I have traditional real estate too, so I have those too, but it's honestly, Ben, it's like I run two different businesses.
Yes.
But and going to what our topic today was of leverage, one of the benefits, if you work in a niche and you are so deep in that world that you are considered a true expert, um, is it gives you opportunities to kind of set your schedule, which is where my class, Leveraging Your Way to Free Weekends, came from as a solo agent, because I don't have, up until almost a month ago, Ben, you met my butler at family reunion, who is my husband who joined my team at the beginning of January. Up until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I've never had a licensed person on my team. And so he just got his license. So I'm trying to figure out how we utilize that while still salvaging our marriage so that I don't have to sell our house because of divorce. And so we're still trying to figure all that out. But it really does circle back to when you niche down on something so you're so focused on it, it gives you the ability to be the expert, and people come to you. And then you really can schedule your way to free weekends, whatever that looks like for you. Whether it's for me, I've got a 6-year-old. Saturday, Sunday, I don't want to be seeing clients. I don't want to be doing all that stuff. And if you work with attorneys, that actually kind of makes it easier. And you just don't give that as an option.
Right.
And I still work with buyers. I don't know if you want me to kind of dive into
Yeah,
the how-to of that.
I didn't want us to spend our time is so brief anyway, because I know you do so many different things and not just the divorce side, but I think it was important to address that. And
Yeah.
for me, when we met, it was all about aim narrow, which I think we're hearing more and more of that today. That's something that has resonated with me for a long time. It's just aim narrow. And that's know what your avatar is, and we don't have to serve everyone at all, right? And I think the more narrow our niche, sometimes the higher I'd say our gain and ceiling. But that's just me. There's so many other things that you do well, and so speak to me about what else are you doing besides that? That is keeping you at the top of your game, especially in a city that I believe is so competitive because everyone wants to sell in that city. Because I mean, your average is a mansion for us. That's just crazy. I know there's some communities that are on the lower end, but
Mhm.
um, talk to me.
Yeah. That's a really good point, Ben. So here in San Diego, we've got um, about 20,000 realtors, and we've got the average realtor in my market sells about 1.5 houses a year. So unless you're selling in Rancho Santa Fe, which unfortunately I'm not doing a lot of right now, unless you're doing that, you're probably not making enough to live on. And I would think that your market is probably very similar, Ben. I feel like you have a decent amount of agents in your market as well, but yeah, I mean, our units are low. We don't do a ton of units. So every deal is, critical for us. My average price point is a little bit over a million personally. Right now, I've got deals going between a $450,000 condo that I'm selling to one of our military heroes up to next week. I'll be putting on a $3 million house in La Jolla, which is one of the most expensive zip codes in the country.
And that's the
So
one you're going to send me. Don't
I'm
forget.
going to send you that.
Yes,
Yeah, we're
absolutely.
getting some work done. You're going to be the first one to get the photos, Ben. I'm going to send it to you before I even send it to my sellers.
Thank
But
you.
but anyway, yeah. So I run the gamut, but I think when you work in a niche, and I know there's a lot of agents that like to focus on luxury, and that's awesome. But if you work in a niche, like my divorce attorneys, they send me, properties by the border that are not worth a lot of money, and they send me multi-million dollar properties. So my price point really is all over the place. And that's okay. I mean, I take care of my clients, it's like they teach you in KW luxury. Luxury is an experience, it's not a price point. And so I always try to take care of my clients in any price point. And then as far as like other things that I'm doing in my business, I had to give up open houses to have free weekends. So I rarely do. I probably last year did two open houses. I haven't done any this year. I think I'm going to do one for that $3 million listing just because sounds fun. I like to do an open house party, so I might break my rule next weekend and work
Okay.
part of a day on a weekend. But I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, so I have my sphere and my past clients. They've been kind to me. I do client parties a couple times a year. This Friday, I'm going to be having a little St. Patrick's Day grand opening. Our office relocated from near downtown to Mission Valley, which is a little more central. We've got more parking, less homeless, because we do have an issue with homeless here. And so I'm doing a little client party, and then we're planning a couple other client parties. We're going to do a pickleball tournament this year, and I haven't done a trivia night in a couple of years, so we're going to do a little trivia party. And every year I do holiday photos for clients as well. That's actually one of my favorite ones because it's the least expensive. By the way, if you want to do a client party, it's the least expensive. And it has the most bang for your buck because you schedule people to come. So you actually get like 5 to 10 minute one-on-ones with each of your clients versus a traditional client party where everybody shows up at once and you're literally pulling to say hi really quick to everybody, and you may not get the time. So if you're looking for a good bang for your buck client party, that would be a good one to start with.
I love that. I haven't really done that at that level. We've done that as a combined office event, and we've got one a financial event coming at the end of this month. So I will tell you, sometimes your market centers, ours here in Dallas, we do it. We create these events and allow agents just to participate for a minimal. Investment instead of major. So, is there from the class that you teach? Is there something that you like to share with us on the leverage part of that before we depart today? Because one, I haven't attended it, and I'm anxious to do so. I will. I promise you, I will. So, hmm,
Yeah, so I'll share the couple things that I had to give up in my business in order to get to free weekends. That would be helpful in case anybody else here is a little bit of a type A like me. The biggest thing I had to give up was some control. That was really hard for me. I've been kind of doing this for a long time on my own. It's hard to give up control for your baby, right? Your business is your baby. Obviously, I mentioned giving up open houses on weekends. Now, if open house is a big part of your business, you could still do them in the afternoons or a morning one. If you're by your kid's school, you could do one there. You could still do them during the week if you didn't want to do them on the weekends. I give them to agents in my market center who actually do better open houses than me, and I require them to do a full feedback form. So on Mondays, my sellers still get all the feedback from me. I'm just not the one sitting there. Buyer showings on the weekends and evenings. So at your buyer consults, set the stage for your clients. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I never want to be the reason that you miss out on a house. And so I look forward to showing you property. But if I'm ever double booked or unavailable, I'm going to get you into that house regardless. So don't worry about my schedule. You tell me when you want to see a house and which house you want to see, and I will make it happen. And I mean, what buyer is going to say, oh, you're going to make it happen? That sounds terrible, right? And so when you set the stage, I've realized that buyers, they don't know that you have to always be the one to show them that. That's in our head. That's our own thing that we put together. So I would say do that. Also, I minimize writing offers on the weekends. If the offers are due Monday morning, yes, I will write the offer on the weekend. Um, I would say about 65-70% of my business is listings. I also never review offers on the weekends. So I have offers coming in on my listing from an open house this weekend. I'm reviewing on Tuesday. Don't, because if you say you're due Monday morning, guess what? You're going to be getting a bunch of calls from agents scrambling on a Sunday night. Is that really how you want to spend your Sunday? Not me. I'd rather have it, on Monday when my admin shows up and he takes over the phone calls. So do little things like that. Also, I don't give weekends as an option to do buyer and listing appointments. I just say I'm available on Tuesday at 4 or Wednesday at 9. Do either of those work for you? I can't remember the last time I actually did a buyer consult or a listing appointment. I just don't give it as an option. If it's literally the only option, I'm not going to give up on a listing because of that, but just don't give it as an option. Yeah,
Yep.
and that's in general, that's what I do. I don't tell my clients that I don't work weekends. I wouldn't recommend you share that, which is why it's really hard for me to advertise my Leverage Your Way to Free Weekends class on social media because so many of my clients are on it.
Yeah.
But that's essentially what I wanted to do, and it was actually easier than I thought. So just do little steps. Just take a couple of the things I said today, and if you're a solo agent like me, you might think that that's not possible. Believe me, for years, I told my coach, I'm so burned out. I don't want to work weekends, but it's not possible to give them up. And, I have a little kid, and my husband just out of the blue to me three years ago said, or 2 years ago, I hate that you work so much on weekends. He never said anything like that before. We used to be workaholics before we had our kid. And so, now we spend our weekends, he and I are coaching our daughter's soccer team. As I mentioned, he just joined my team. So now I'm like, okay, maybe you start working some weekends.
Sure.
Yeah. But we're
Is
coaching our daughter's soccer team again, for the first time, and all this opportunity that real estate brings you. So just because other people tell you it can't be done, or maybe you tell yourself it can't be done, doesn't mean it can't. So just make little changes in your business so that you don't get burned out. Because after 22 years, I've been burned out so many times by working too many days a week. Don't do that.
Well, that's great information. And I think you need to hear that regardless of whether you've been in the business for 3 years or 36, like
Mhm.
me. Because I was in the business, it's crazy. I was in the business, I think, 4 years before I finally took off a Saturday and Sunday. And I was so naive. I thought that it was a requirement. I'm telling you, I was pretty stupid. I thought it was a requirement for real estate professionals to work every Saturday and Sunday and didn't know that you didn't have to. Didn't know it, right? Now, again, I've been in a game a long time, but you can teach
Maybe
this all
it
new
was
trick.
required.
I know, yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And so now I've gotten where I enjoy taking a nap on a Saturday because I don't sleep well during the week. And so Saturdays, I like to grab an hour somewhere if I can. But again, that's me, and I'm probably oversharing, and that's okay because this is family here. I'm just saying. So, guys, I appreciate Bridget. I appreciate you sharing because I'm like, there's so much more to Bridget than just the divorce side. And it's what's so crazy is that's been on my list. If I tell you for the last 10 plus years, folks have talked about relationships with attorneys and that kind of thing. And I think that there's something going on now because for about the last 2 years, it's just resonated with me. And you've almost validated that again, it's about relationships and nurturing those. And you never know. You never know what can come from that, from this little niche narrowness has this broad appeal that you currently have. And so I'm so blessed that you've given us just a couple of minutes of your time. And I'm also glad that you do so much more than just that, right? Like I said, you don't want to be pigeonholed as a character actor or a comedian, right? You can do so many different things as the Oscars just finished. And I love that. And I'm anxious to continue to get to know you even better than we do. And just know that if you need something here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you're looking at a referral partner. And as I see Karen and Monique and Richie and ESG, boy, I mean, you've got contacts from all over the country. I mean, from Arizona to New York to Atlanta to San Antonio. We're all over. And utilize the community. And guys, reach out to Bridget if you have something in the San Diego and surrounding areas. I know she can get it handled. ESG says, call me. So, trust me, he is one of my trusted sources there. And again, I always get it mixed up, but I know he can handle Bronx, Queens, Long Island, Staten Island. He can handle all of that. So just know you've got family all over this place. So, as we leave, is there anything else that you want to add? Are we good?
Oh my gosh, I see some questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Scott, you're talking about nonprofits. I think, is that to me that you're asking that? I do work with a lot of nonprofits. I go on a couple of mission trips a year to Mexico, to San Luis. There, I work with one called the Aloe family. There's actually a couple of KW agents that go with me. Kristen Francis out of Virginia is the one who introduced me to the nonprofit. I also sit on a couple of advisory boards for the Salvation Army here in San Diego and then on our Western territory. So there's a little travel involved. And then there's a couple of nonprofits here in San Diego that I work with, one specific to working with young adults with autism. Because they have a very, very low chance of actually getting full-time employment. And so there's some pretty great nonprofits here in San Diego that do that. And then let's see, Vance, it looks like you asked about do attorneys ever do seminars? If an attorney asked me to do that, I would do it. I actually, again, my focus is not public facing. My focus is solely attorneys. But what we didn't talk about today is I do teach classes to attorneys. That took a long time for me to get to that point because attorneys will question you. They're like, all right, Bridget, so tell me, are you a 730 or not? I better darn well know what a 730 is, right? Or if they're asking me about an Elizer, do I know what an Elizer is? Why, yes, Attorney Smith. That is an option that we could use in this case. You know what I mean? They like to trick you, they like to test you. And I love it because I love complex transactions. So I always say, bring them, bring them.